Nice to see you back in this other episode of Am I for Change? I am your host, Dr. Monica Gilbert, and today we're going to open up with a joke. Well, I'm going to try to make it a joke. So, this is a man that goes to see his medical doctor, and the man, very concerned about his wife, says, Doc, I think that my wife cannot hear. I think she's having problems with her hearing. And the doctor says, try this when you get home. Ask her a question from a very far away part of the house. And if she doesn't respond, get a little closer, ask her again. If she doesn't respond, get it closer and closer so we can kind of measure to see how her hearing is doing. And the man said, okay, I'll do it. He goes back home and from a faraway room in the house, he yells and he says, what is for dinner? Nothing. He doesn't hear anything. Okay. He gets a little closer to the other room and he says, hey, love, what is for dinner? Pauses, doesn't hear anything. Gets a little closer to the kitchen where his wife was cooking and says, hey, what's for dinner? Waits a couple of seconds, nothing. And then he gets really close to her ear and he says, hey, I asked you, what's for dinner? And she looks at him and says, for the fourth time, I told you it was rice and beans. So this is a great joke. I don't know if you got a laugh of it out of it or not, but this is a joke that explains how sometimes we feel like others are not hearing us, but in turn, it is the other way around. We are the ones who are not listening to what is being said. So definitely it's important to keep that in mind when we communicate with clients. Now, today we're going to speak about the 8 what not to do when communicating with clients. And let's talk about the first one. The first one is over advising. So when we make recommendations, and of course, as therapists, we are going to make recommendations. We're going to communicate our concerns. It's part of what we do. We are not robots. We're not just there in the wall. We are there to have this engageful conversation. However, doing this very early on in the therapeutic process can really damage that rapport and really just frustrate the conversation. So it is important that you use the EPE approach. And if you're wondering what that EPE approach is, go to the episode on the ORS plus I, and you'll hear about what this EPE approach is. And this is a way where we are sharing our concerns, we're sharing information, but in a way that is respectful and is more likely to have the person increase in their receptiveness towards what we're saying. So over advising is something that we often do as therapists and that we should stay away from. Also, if we are advising very early on in the conversation, we're not really respecting that mutual partnership that we want to establish with our clients. Instead, we are already setting up this hierarchy where you are the expert and they're the student or they're down here. Number 2 is skipping engagement. I will say this once and I will say this all the time. When you are working with your children, for example, your child's client, you don't all of a sudden get in and start working on interventions. You have to build rapport. Why aren't we doing that with parents? We should be doing that more. And also, when we're working with clients, with adult clients, don't skip the engagement. The engagement is the first part of the processes that we should really do before we get to anything else. And I've heard before from other consultations that I've done, and sometimes it's you are forced to go into a school setting or you're forced to go into this whatever setting, and it has to be quick. It has to be filled with solution focused recommendations. I am just coming in, I have to train this person and I have to leave. And sometimes that happens. As much as you're able to, try to not skip this engagement part. This is as precious as the intervention portion of that conversation that you're going to have with a client. Even if it's 30 minutes, at least those first 10, 15 minutes have to be put in that engagement. Number 3 is ignoring the pink elephant in the room. A lot of us have difficulty. A lot of us experience difficulties with confrontations. We feel like if we are confronting the client, maybe they'll say something that's going to make us snap. Or maybe they'll say something that we won't have an answer for. Or maybe it will damage our rapport if we are very confrontational with them. It's important that we acknowledge that pink elephant in the room. And when I say pink elephant, I mean that conversation that it's pending. Like both of you know it's there and you have to talk about it, but you are not. You're just not speaking about it. You're just ignoring it until it goes away. But as we know, that pink elephant lingers, it stays there, and it will not go away. It's important to learn the skills to really have a conversation about that conversation that you have pending, because ignoring it won't really resolve the situation. And again, if you need to build the skills to have that conversation, then look for ways to build those skills. Number four is ignoring ambivalence. So, ambivalence, again, is a state of having both you want to do this and you don't want to do it at the same time. I want a fit body, but I also want to eat that cheesecake, or which, by the way, I'll choose the cheesecake all day long. Or I want to study, but I also want to socialize and go to that party. So it's this ambivalent stage that keeps you in the middle and it keeps you feeling stuck because you want to change and you feel guilty about not changing, but you're just not there yet. You're not ready to go there. So ignoring that there is ambivalence is an important thing to stay away from. We want to acknowledge that there is ambivalence. Use double sided reflections. On one side, you mentioned that you don't want your child to hate you because you're always reprimanding them. And on the other side, you acknowledge that you need to come up with an intervention that works before things get worse. So, acknowledging that parents are feeling both of these things. And always, of course, trying to help them towards that change is important. Some people think that when a client is a little resistant or they're pushing back, that this is a time where you should just back off and forget about everything. I see it as an opportunity for a conversation. So if the client is resistant, then find out where that resistance is coming from. Let's get to the core of it. Why are they feeling this way? What are they telling you that you're not hearing? Get to the core of where that's coming from. Number five is arguing for change or convincing clients. A lot of the times we are the ones arguing for change. We're telling them all the reasons for change. We're telling them how their life would be better if the tantrum wasn't going on, or how it would be easier if this was going on. And we're really putting so much effort to convincing them to the point where we are burning out as therapists. And I don't want to see therapists burn out anymore. So instead of doing that, evoke changes from them, evoke those reasons for change. So, what do you think are some reasons why it would be important for your little one to be able to stay on task and sit for at least 5 minutes? And maybe if they don't see it now, talk about the future. Well, maybe not now, but like when he's like in second grade, why would that be important? When he's in geometry class and math class, why is it important to stay seated for at least 5 minutes? So, talk about those future outlooks of this behavior and its consequences. And draw out the importance of change and the confidence for change and all of that from the client. Number six is taking it personal. And this is a biggie and this is a hard one. More so if you are like me, that I like to please others. Hard when someone disagrees with you. It is difficult when someone yells or someone seems frustrated. And it's very easy for those of us who are like this to take it to heart and say, oh my gosh, was it something I said? Was it something I did? Most of the time, it isn't. Most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. There's so many things going on in people's life that you're probably the last person there. Maybe you said something that triggered it, but at the end of the day, you just triggered it. But there's more that's underneath that you don't know about. So, taking things personal is something that as therapists, we should stay away from. It's important for us to acknowledge our frustration or how sad we are or how hurt or sometimes even how angry we are because of a statement that was made. And then we can acknowledge whether, okay, maybe this is something that I should speak with that client about. Maybe it's something that I should bring up, or maybe they were just having a bad day and it's really not that big of a deal. And if I'm able to understand, and again, understanding that it's not about you doesn't mean dismissing your feeling. You can still accept your feelings, say, wow, that really pissed me off when they said that, or that really made me sad, or whatever it is when they said that, or made me feel frustrated. And at the same time, understanding that it had absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. There's a psychology statement that it's like, when Jim talks about Carrie, I learn more from Jim than I do about Carrie. So most of the time, people are just showing you the way that they are and the way that they process things. And again, it's not about you. Number 7 is making a joke or redirecting the conversation. You're probably thinking like, what? I'm not supposed to joke around during the session? It has nothing to do with that. Again, there is a time to make a joke and there are times where maybe we shouldn't. But what I've noticed is that sometimes clinicians become very intimidated, or they just don't know what to say, or maybe they don't want to deal with that confrontation, so they'll just make a joke, or they'll just like swipe it under the rug, or they'll just pretend it didn't happen, or redirect the conversation like it didn't happen instead of addressing it. Again, we don't want to create the pink elephant in the room, nor do we want to leave that pink elephant there. So it's important that we stay away from deflecting, from just making jokes to get out of these conversations. But it's okay to make jokes. I make jokes all the time. I think my clients, think I'm funny. I don't know. We would have to ask them. All right. So number 8 is not respecting autonomy. So again, when we are pushing towards change, sometimes we have to be careful when we are pushing too much to the point where we are, or it may seem like we are taking that person's agency away. People like to make their own decisions. They like to feel like they are in control of their life. It's a survival mechanism, and it's also like a control thing. So, as Peter Senge said, people are more likely to do the things they say they will do versus the things that they are told to do. So, it's not really resisting what someone is saying. Most of the time, people are resisting that lack, or that feeling that they don't have autonomy, that they don't have that right, that someone took that right for them to make that decision that is ultimately going to affect them at the end. Because think about it, when we work with parents or clients or whatever it is, at the end of the day, whatever the parent does or doesn't do will affect them. So it's important that we always respect their autonomy. And something that I like to say at the end of my conversations when I'm sharing interventions is, at the end of the day, mom or dad, it's completely up to you. It's completely up to you whether you want to follow this or not. This may work for you. This may not work for you. It's for you to figure out. I like to always end with that. And when you end with that, you will see more buy-in. You will see less resistance and less elbow shrugs and things like that. So always end with that, with respecting that autonomy, and as much as possible, respect that autonomy throughout the conversation. Again, there are tons of others, what not to do, but these are just some 8 not to do's that I wanted to share with you. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any that I missed out. Would love to hear from you. And I hope to see you in our next episode of MI for Change. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of MI for Change. If you're ready to keep growing your motivational interviewing skills, I'd love to invite you to explore my MI Academy, where you'll find a full library of on-demand courses designed to help you put MI into practice with confidence. You can learn more at www.drmonicagilbert.com. Until next time, keep asking the questions that spark change.